I have a different philosophy of looking at this 40 and plus 20, 60%, which if you're not into loans or anything, it should be with your rentals and everything, it shouldn't
Correct.
cross 60. But if you stick to this bucket of 30% of investing right from day one, you will be financially free. So this comes to stock management or equity, like direct equity buying. कि अगर गिर रहा है, an advisor normally would say that when it dips, buy more. But then you will say कि अगर और गिर रहा है, मैं leverage करने के लिए मैंने entry मारी है और down हो गया. You should have those resources also to pump it.
My very own personal guru, who's available to me anytime, every time. Someone I was born to. One of my closest friends, one of the greatest advisors that I have of course come across, and I'm sure most of his clients also agree. जो अपने फाइनेंस को डील करने में अपने मेंटल हेल्थ को भी एकदम हल्का कर देते हैं. This is one of my absolute favorite podcasts where I welcome my very own father, Sunil Chachlani, a wealth manager, a financial coach, your wellness coach in a lot of ways. So let's hear about everything to do with today's life, your money, through him. The world is getting all the more seamless, all the more planned, and everything there is to attract you to spend on them, whether it's marketing, whether it's brand, jo bolo, and plus the fact that money is constantly on the fingertips. Hamare generation mein, because we have the resources available and we do not have the future to worry about because you've set it all for us. That made me think there can be no one better than you, my very own father, my personal financial planner, and that of hundreds of others, to have and talk about what is going on in the world today in terms of personal financial planning. Where do you think today's generation is headed?
First of all, let me thank you for having me here and getting this opportunity to talk about my passion, which is money and planning with money. The question which you put across of where is the world heading, the Gen Z and the next gen, which is
Gen Alpha,
which is going to come in more into prominence down the line, believe in present rather than the future. My previous generations used to believe more in the future rather than the present. So they struggled with earning the money so that their future could be safe. But these forthcoming generations believe in running the present very well, not worrying much about the future. So that's the difference.
And how do you think it's impacting their income management or cash flow management right now? What are the issues that you're seeing with the younger clients that you might have?
Well, the difference is till generation before Gen Z, the more hard work was prominent. A bit of smartness, you can say. But now the new generation is looking at being smarter more rather than hard work. Of course, the circumstances are also making them think and work that way. So nothing wrong in that. But we should also have that firm belief that hard work is as important as smart work. And work in that space, in that pace, rather than being laid back, believing on smart work only. And kind of going into a relaxed mode.
I think what's driving this thought process is instant gratification, जो हम बोलते हैं.
Exactly.
Income भी उतना जल्दी available है because one, thanks to the internet availability today, कहीं ना कहीं कैसे ना कैसे job मिल जाती है, at least in India, because it's still a labor intensive economy.
True.
एक तो वो, दूसरा because expendability भी इतना ही common है. So people are like, okay, next month में adjust हो जाएगा. Basically the same thing, paycheck to paycheck रहना.
Yes. Paycheck to paycheck. And yes, I also see it in a good way that these generations are not looking at spend first and pay later. They are definitely looking at spending, but to the extent of what they are earning and not leaving anything kind of for the future. So that is what is the change which is also being kind of seen. And if they be very strong on this front, in this belief that we should spend what we have, it is still in a good side of the coin, or the shining side of the coin, because I always believe that the coin has the
Two
flip
sides.
side. So what you see always shines, and what is behind is always dark.
Yeah.
So up to my generation and all that, people have always never thought to see the dark side. But here it is, now the coin is kind of flipped, or it's in the center where you are kind of seeing both the sides in a better way, and take decisions accordingly.
Wow, this I think gives me the perfect gap to say the word contingency. And यहाँ पे I want to talk about your theory of the C's that you have and why contingency is important, because वहाँ पे वो gap fill नहीं हो रहा. Because I've grown up with the theories that you've been explaining to your clients since I was a kid. It's not new to me, but I'm sure बहुत लोगों को अभी भी ये समझ में नहीं आता कि one, what is contingency, क्यों necessary है, and how can they do it.
Since you mentioned 4C, I would like to take one name here who has brought this concept into existence, and he has been my teacher in the past, by the name of Mr. Lazarus Dias. He gave us this concept in his trainings to us, where the first C is creation of income. Second C is consumption of income. Third C, I would skip for the time being right now, but the fourth C is what we say, conservation of income. Sorry, not the other way. Conservation of income. And everybody in this tends to forget the concept of continuation of income. So that's how your 4 C's form: creation, consumption, then continuation, and conservation. So with these, I tend to plan out a financial life of a family, ensuring that in today's terms, if the breadwinner of the family does not, have his presence, his or her presence, the family should not suffer.
Yeah.
And of course, when the life continues, so that's why we need the continuation of income.
Correct.
So, and plus, as a legacy, we pass it out and that is why we conserve that capital. So now I have changed my philosophy of being a financial wellness coach or a personal finance professional to a personal capital professional. Because we have to manage wealth.
Correct.
Post that comes managing risk.
Yeah.
Now it's one level up, is managing capital.
So that is the actual wealth builder.
Yeah, so it's wealth management to risk management, risk management to capital management. So this is the bucket theory of money.
Okay.
And every step of this needs planning. And the role of an advisor keeps on increasing with the hierarchy. So when it comes to freshers and starters and children who are looking forward to start a career, like I did with my children, that is you and your sibling, is if you want anything, it is actually supposed to come from your pocket money.
True.
For example, if you say that you want an ice cream, so when you all were kids, I said always give me the money to buy it out.
Yeah.
That money went back to the piggy bank in some form or the other as a reward, or as a gratification of some good deed which came automatically. So that reward or gratification went into the kitty, and spending made you all realize whether we should spend at that moment or not.
Correct.
If I'm asking money, so a thought comes, should I spend money? My piggy bank will get, the money in the bank will go down.
Yeah.
So should I go ahead with or no? Another case is travel. Anyways, if we are going out for travel, we will be staying in a hotel. So the room will accommodate you. But the travel cost always came from your pocket money. So these are the habits where you need to tell the children to start looking at how to spend money, whether it's a need or a want. So from there, the whole theory or the cycle of spending starts.
Correct.
Whether you are concentrating on needs or whether you are looking at wants. Now, for many people, this want actually is a need. That is why they spend. But
They think that it is a need.
They think it is a need. They don't differentiate till the time they mature good enough to then realize. But sometimes for many, this actually becomes a bit too late.
Huh.
And what we call it is a debt trap.
Correct.
So they fall into that trap and then they approach advisors to get them out.
Correct.
So that's why I said, starting from wealth management, where we teach how to spend money,
Yeah.
then to manage risk, because then money starts accumulating. So you need risk management, where you need to take risks to grow a little quicker, not faster, because fast money is always bad.
Always bad.
And then once you accumulate a good level of money by taking proper risks, calculated risk, then you need to manage the capital which you have created.
Okay. So sticking to the first step as of now, wealth management में one of the biggest differentiators, like you said, is needs and wants. And बहुत लोगों को वो difference ही समझ में नहीं आता. So what questions can they ask themselves? Because I somewhere had your inputs as a moral compass even when I was out with friends. Okay, ये फिलहाल जरूरत नहीं है, तो I would hold back regardless of what my friends would say.
True.
But आज क्योंकि peer pressure उतना ही ज़्यादा है and उतना ही intense है, it's difficult for people, even when they recognize that, okay, I might not need this, but if I don't do this, मेरे वो friends as such टिके नहीं रहेंगे and everything, they get into that influence and go ahead with the decision anyway. So how do they, stop that or create that moral compass? Okay, this is needed, this is wanted.
Okay, I always try to correlate this question with when even investors ask me, when they said, कि भी नहीं spend तो करना चाहिए. So I ask them once, what is the gratification you're getting? For example, when you are dealing with an advisor with managing your money, the only question which you ask him is, मेरे को return कितना मिलेगा? मेरा कितना पैसा जल्दी grow होगा? How quickly, or what is it, this thing? So I always tell them that let's work on a goal. Let's finalize a financial goal, which can be short term, medium term, long term. And then based on that, the returns automatically come in. So this same question, I ask them back. Okay, whatever you're spending, what is the return you are getting?
How is it aligned to those specific goals?
Yeah, right. So, like many people have this habit of, binge shopping on, say, clothes. So they feel that they want to carry themselves well. And at every different occasion or time, they need a different set of clothes. That gives them that moral feeling that, okay, nobody has seen this set of clothes. This is prominent in celebrities. It's, this is how the culture has come in.
Yeah.
For of changing clothes or having new set of clothes every now and then. So, but what do you get? Now, what we always see is a story which is given to us by by a mind, not the subconscious mind, because subconscious mind will not treat you that way.
Yeah, it's an influenced behavior.
Because the mind gets influenced, and you then don't let that thought go to the subconscious mind, because subconscious mind programs your mind.
Correct.
So you don't let that those thoughts go towards the subconscious mind, and you start working with those thoughts. कि हाँ, मुझे अब ये चाहिए. For example, take gadgets itself. Sometimes we feel that we need this, but we want this. Whereas, say from a phone example, an Android phone, maybe a little lesser memory and all that, can still solve a problem from a child's phone usage point of view. But because of influence, one friend has an iPhone, and maybe his family is kind of,
they have the resources.
And they give them the support. Whenever a new version comes, that child has a new version in the hand. And that influences the other people who are around. So हम लोग जो भी करते हैं, basically the wants are dedicated towards देखा देखी. If he has something, we want either the same level, or if possible
Even
to
better.
go one notch up, we try to go. And we don't see how our parents have capacitated themselves, whether they have that capacity to work. But because being children, we just put our demands in front of them.
Yeah.
So then here comes that parenting. How to convince the child, how to handhold the child with that demand, and how to manage it in case if you are not able to fulfill it, or you don't want to fulfill it, right? Based on your thought process, it's the parent also who plays a very important role in bringing up the child's thoughts towards needs and minds.
Yeah.
And of course, influence by seeing everything around with friends, with social media, with whatever around, like in movies and things like that. So it's all what you see that you get is, it's a short form called as Wistig. What you see is that
What
you
you get.
get Wistig. So that Wistig part is what influences the money management of the future also. And then the peer pressure in terms of the spouse.
Yeah.
If one partner is spendthrift, he definitely will influence,
Correct.
because it will be difficult for the other partner to kind of
Match up.
control it, or it may be the reverse, that he or she gives up and becomes a support to that the other partner. So this is how we need to differentiate between needs and wants.
To my mind, I think based on what you worked on us, मेरे हिसाब से it's also about the value system that the parents create from the very beginning. So
Correct.
somewhere मेरे दिमाग में एक already instilled है that दुनिया क्या बोलती है does not matter. You're not supposed to think about, चार लोग क्या कहते हैं and everything. Because of which maybe peer pressure had absolutely zero impact on me. In fact, I still remember when in 9th standard, the only school trip that I had been to, Bombay mein, uske liye bhi 6,500 or 7,500 was the entire cost. And at that point, I was like very scared. Okay, agree karenge, nahi karenge. And then, all four of you collated some money, plus included some of my pocket money. वो मिला के, I had gone to that trip.
True.
So for me, that was all the more valuable because कि चलो एक बार experience मिला. The last school trip जो होता 10th के पहले, I got that experience, and more so because that conscience came in के जरूरत नहीं है, but it's also about that experience के okay, this is one time. School का इसके बाद कभी और मिलेगा नहीं. Not that सारे friends बोल रहे हैं and everything, but it was also a very personal choice कि एक बार होना चाहिए. And because of this, you were also ready because you saw कि okay, चलो अभी resources बढ़ रहा है. It's very doable for us.
Yes.
तो जाने दो. So it's also parents deciding कि कौन से demand को फिलहाल fulfill करने की जरूरत है and what can be put on hold.
Absolutely. See, what happens, everything also depends on how the circumstances are. Right? Like if I'm talking about myself, it was kind of a restart for me when I shifted from Ahmedabad to Mumbai. It was a conscious call to leave the profession back there and start with a corporate job here in Mumbai. What I'm not getting that word. But the idea was to come back to the hometown, right? So that because this is the place of opportunities.
Yeah.
So if I'm looking back, yes, it was a good decision. But the process of shifting to Mumbai and restarting the career kind of from scratch, because when you're leaving a running profession, taking up a corporate job, which I did for a couple of years, not more than 2 years, I suppose, and then back into profession. So cash management or cash flow was a difficult time because Bombay is definitely an expensive city compared to Ahmedabad. And the resources didn't allow in the previous years of your schooling to work on this aspect. So when the opportunity came in, and we still saw some issues there, but didn't want to give up. So that's how the pooling came in from all corners.
Yeah.
And you went for the trip, enjoyed it, and plus being in 9th standard, it's a little like an matured approach. So you understood.
Yeah.
Okay. And we also understood that yes, it's a need of the hour for you. So we need to give in. Otherwise, sometimes not agreeing to anything also, puts the child into a. It becomes a drawback for the child.
Correct.
And it's a different zone again to live in.
Yeah.
So that yes, we worked on that.
And I think what also helped was an extremely open communication, where you are very transparent about, it's not that you don't want to fulfill our demands, but for whatever circumstances, it's only for the time being. So, kind of telling us, this is only temporary, this is only temporary. And also that, even if it is not temporary, even today when we are well-to-do, आज भी ये okay, just because we have the resources, we have the capability, doesn't mean that, you keep going on spending on absolutely everything.
Absolutely. Correct. Especially when it comes to travel, because I have worked a lot with my clients who belong to the travel world. They have been working with the travel-oriented companies. And everybody there kind of says that travel is our priority. So I always question them, what are you getting out of it? So they say memories.
Yeah.
Then my question to them, how often do you go back to these memories? Maybe one time, twice, thrice, but what that those memories, those photographs which earlier used to be in a physical format, but now are in a
Digital.
in digital format and lying in the hard disk. Do we have the time to go through those? Because when we don't have I have so many clients who say, no, we don't have time to meet. Forget about meet, we don't have time to even authorize transactions. So, which is just in generating an OTP.
3-second thing.
Yeah, maybe a slight more. Okay, click the link, get the OTP. OTP takes a few seconds to come, feed that, and you are done. We have to keep on reminding them.
Yeah.
Okay, please get this transaction done. Please get this transaction done. These authorizations done. So when they don't have time for that, how often would they be bringing those memories back?
Yeah.
And again, what are those memories going to give back to you? You will just go back and think that, okay, we enjoyed those moments. Are you going to by just seeing that, you're kind of reliving those moments. Fair enough. But what are you gaining? Right? Which is not impacting your life.
Yeah.
So I always say that it's not that I'm telling you all not to travel at all, but balance out
Sustainable.
the expenditure. If you are earning, say, XYZ, and you're spending much portion of that money into traveling, then it is not justified, I would say. It's still your personal call.
Yeah.
If you want to spend it that way, fair enough, I can't stop. But I always say balance out. I'll bring the spiritual aspect of here. In my satsangs, I always hear a statement from during the discourse from many that मरने की तैयारी करो, लेकिन जीने की आशा तो रखनी, right? So I always tell people that plan for the future, which is going to come. So you are not preparing for that.
Correct.
You need to prepare for the future.
Yeah.
Live in the present, no problems.
Yeah.
But then prepare for the future. Balance out your pots of money into what we always say goal settings. Okay, prepare that. Start putting money into those pockets based on priority, and enjoy every
Once
aspect
that is
of
set,
life.
so you go ahead with that.
Yes, and then you'll have abundance.
Correct.
And what is called matra re, that
Yeah.
we used to always say, abundance will always call for abundance. When you have, I have this clipping where he says this word daridrata always attracts daridrata. So even if you don't have abundance, you tell the world I have abundance.
Yeah.
And कहते हैं ना वो जख मार के आपके पास आए.
Absolutely.
ऐसे.
So now that you've mentioned this and goal setting, I want to ask you, freshers who've, let's say, late 20s or mid 20s, mein jo hai, the ones who just started building a career and are looking at establishing a full life ahead. What goals should they ideally look at?
Well, first and foremost is settling down in life for respect to family. Apart from doing the rendezvous with travel and all that, you ought to think if you are into that channel of getting married, right? Because the world is changing. People do think about getting married or no in the first place. So if you are having that thought, first start building up. Don't let your parents kind of participate into that in a big way, so as to keep actually or rather avoid this feeling of being a burden on them. So plan it out, start building up the capital for your marriage to whatever your thought process is all about. So हम कहते हैं ताम झाम करना है तो उसके लिए खुद earn करो, save करो, and then spend it. That should be the first thing. And then there are many various blocks if you want to have extra higher learning to come in. We have started you have finished one part of your post graduation, but there are many aspects which you want to cover up, and it's going to take money. So start building the pockets for that. You start building, and when you are ready with that payout, rather than relying on loans, that's the worst thing to happen actually.
Yeah.
Easy loans are bad for any society as such. We should get loans. It's not that we shouldn't have go into loans, but then again in a planned way.
Correct.
Right. For example, if I give you the fundamentals of money, if you're earning 100 rupees, look at spending 40. You're investing, not saving. Investing should be at 30%. And 10% of the money should go into backups. You had mentioned contingency before. I'll come to that now. And this remaining 20% which remains is all about managing your EMIs within this 20%. So I have a different philosophy of looking at uh, this 40 and plus 20, 60%, which if you're not into loans or anything, it should be with your rentals and everything, it shouldn't
Correct.
cross 60. But if you stick to this bucket of 30% of investing right from day one, you will be financially free always in your life, be it start or be it end. This 30% can, do wonders for your future, because you have to start pumping in smaller pockets
Correct.
for the future, because it's a very long distance journey. So smaller pockets for the long journey, bigger pockets for the short and mid term, and your goals start maturing, and you start using that money accordingly. And what happens in this journey, you start maturing.
Correct.
So certain goals actually die down automatically, saying that okay, iski zarurat nahi hai.
Yeah. So you divert the funds somewhere
Divert
more
the funds
important.
more important. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And what happens? But in today's terms, because of loans, especially housing loans, which I worry about,
Yeah.
more than half of your salary
Yeah.
tends to go towards fulfilling these EMIs of housing properties, is what I feel hurts the most to any family, because you actually are not able to do anything otherwise, because the remaining money just takes care of your living.
Correct.
So enjoyment, investments, everything kind of takes a backseat because you don't have that money.
Correct.
So decide. Don't get into peer pressure, be it from the spouse or be it from the parents, that we should have an property in your in own name. It's not necessary. घर रिश्तों से बनता है.
Correct.
छत मैनेज की जा सकती है.
Yeah.
So manage it. I'm not saying don't buy a property. Plan it out. Till the time you don't have 60% of that capital value accumulated with you, don't go for a property, is what my suggestion is. It can be different for anybody.
Correct.
And yes, the main important part which you mentioned earlier about contingency, it is a must. And especially for today's generation, all the more important. Because earlier people used to first take care of contingency, then go into other aspects of capital-oriented activity. But today it's contingency first, because we don't know how the scenarios change. Because they're changing with a blink of an eye.
Correct.
आज job है, कल job नहीं है.
Yeah.
It never was the case.
Economy was more or less stable back in the day.
Stable, yeah. And even like more of jobs were basically government oriented. So there definitely was security. Private jobs not used to be in huge numbers, but again that was a kind of insecurity because there was no rat race over there.
True.
Because now even the corporate people keep on looking at talent.
Yeah.
वो दो लोगों का काम एक बंदे से निकलवाने की kind of definitely कोशिश करते हैं, so that fine, they're giving that money, but at least multitasking and everything is inbuilt in that setup. So
burnout is kind of forgiven.
If a talent is seen that okay, can be managed, and two people can be kind of so like दो जनों को salary देने से अच्छा 1.5 salary दे दो, you are saving your resources and you are getting a little better talent.
Yeah.
So, and plus the way the corporate style is that many people right now are kind of dying down with that corporate race. They are actually getting tired. So then we need to. That is why the needs and wants become more prominent, and contingency is all the more important. That if you have a backup with you, you can take healthy decisions.
Correct. And I think it also comes to the sentiments they have attached to those specific goals. For example, आपने property बोला. Property का sentiment, the way I look at the generational flow is that पहले के ज़माने में you didn't even have that many financially safe avenues to invest in. Property felt relatively safe कि ठीक है चलो at least छत तो रहेगी.
Yeah.
Because of that, छत तो होनी चाहिए kind of just like all other superstitions to say, उसके पीछे का science पीछे छूट गया, but the line remains कि property होनी चाहिए. And I think it's the same for generations today. Okay, we have much better aspects जहाँ पे ज़्यादा अच्छा ROI मिलेगा, will be much secure, and a lot more growth as compared to real estate. But या तो awareness नहीं है, या तो sentiments इतने highly attached है with the fact that घर के बाहर हमारा नेम प्लेट होना चाहिए, that they are not ready to kind of dive into it.
Right. See, what happens when you are actually getting into property, and especially in Bombay, where the prices are drastically high, and you get into an action that you have taken a heavy loan, and then you're trying to miss opportunities if you have to leave the city and go for a better profile or a better loan, or if at all you're doing that, then you have to manage two houses. So why get into that?
Correct.
When you know that, and you have taxation impacts also. If you are on rent, you have, of course, there are two regimes now when it comes to income tax. So with the old regime getting out, this sort of idea of getting most benefit out of the rentals is going to die down, because new regime has no theory or no place for the exemptions which are currently available in the old regime. So down the line it will become different also. But as of now, rentals play a big part in saving more tax than the loan, provided you have a good figure in terms of your basic salary and your HRA allowances, which kind of then matches with your rentals, and you get the maximum out of the tax benefits out of that.
Correct.
So sentiments, are important that way, but then again it shouldn't influence your decision making. आप sentiments को रखो, so sentiments taking over decision making and not allowing you to take the right channel, especially not only money but other aspects of life also. So channelize the energy.
Yeah.
Don't let it get, like कहते हैं ना, काफी लोग कहते हैं कि दिल की सुनो.
Correct.
लेकिन दिमाग और दिल को अगर साथ में लेके कैलकुलेट करके चलते, you will be the winner.
True. So talking about calculations, most people, when they are not either backed by an advisor, जो खुद के हिसाब से क्या बोलते थोड़ा बहुत commercial understanding है, they only look at returns when they make a choice of investments. Is it the right way to look at? And if not, what else should they be considering, factoring to make that choice?
I'm a very firm believer in expertise. A person who's working has been hired in the given company, in the given role, for an expertise he's carrying. Right? So even the advisor is an expert, definitely an expert in the financial world, or be it any other category. Like we will not. Okay, I can. If you compare that with the Western world, yes, there's a lot of do-it-yourself activities there that people paint their houses and themselves, plumbing and each and every aspect is kind of do-it-yourself. But the resources are made that way.
Correct.
So they don't, put them back.
Correct.
Okay, or rather on do it yourself, on what we call DIY. So but here the tendency is different, right? We will not paint our own house. Though I have seen at least one family in my client, this thing, who gets these things done on their own. So every 3 months they kind of change the painting of their of the room, because karna kya hai? Like the breadwinner is into shipping.
Okay.
So for 3 months he's at home. क्या करना है? So let's get into this. So it's an stress buster also.
Keeps the mind occupied.
Occupation also. इनके भी ठीक है, time occupied है, mind occupied है, क्या करना है? So we can understand that.
Correct.
So one should have an input of what you are doing or what the advisor is doing with money, right? Because what happens when you are doing it yourself, sentiment will again play a very important role in decision making, and that will definitely not allow you to take the right decision. When it comes to stock management or equity, like direct equity buying, कि अगर गिर रहा है, an advisor normally would say that when it dips, buy more. But then you will say कि अगर और गिर रहा है, मैं leverage करने के लिए मैंने entry मारी है और down हो गया. You should have those resources also to pump in.
Correct.
लेकिन एक बार pump in कर गया, उसके बाद भी if the market is tending to go down, you can lose that trust.
Correct.
कि भाई ये मैंने क्या किया. So instead of holding that stuff, or if you like many have the habit of jumping the gun straight away, कि चलो नुकसान हो गया, let's go to to a different stock. I do understand that idea also कि भाई चलो पता है कि अगर घोड़ा थक गया है, नहीं भाग रहा है, तो उसमें से पैसा निकाल के आपको डेफिनेटली दूसरे घोड़े पे ही पैसा लगाना है, so that he makes money for you. But वो डिसीजन कब लेना है, वो बहुत डिफिकल्ट हो जाता है when sentiments play a big role. कि अभी तो मेरा इतना नुकसान हो गया, then people don't tend to come out of that loss.
Correct.
And when the market starts correcting, people always say, "मेरा नुकसान हो रहा है, मेरा नुकसान हो रहा है." Now the loss is not a loss till it is realized.
Correct.
So that is why we always tell, take the leverage. If your goals are far away, and if you pump in more money, if it is available, you would tend to reach the goal faster than the normal timeline which is there. So whenever you have an opportunity, like the current market situation, it is down more than around 10 or 10+%. So it's a time to invest.
Correct.
But if you think, अरे मैंने आज इन्वेस्ट किया, कल फिर से 500 पॉइंट मार्केट डाउन हो गया, तो ये क्या हो गया, मेरा मनी इज ऑलरेडी कल ही डाला था, आज नुकसान हो गया. Don't, because ये जो नीचे गया, it's like a spring. The more the spring is pressed, it's going to bounce. It always depends on the speed. Earlier the speeds were not quicker of the bounce backs.
Correct.
But now the timing has changed because there's a lot of money which has come into the market, specifically in the last 4-5 years. So these dips are easy to manage. Earlier the it's right now not the bear run as of now, because bear runs happen when you're now these are all technical points. Like the bear run starts when the market corrects around 20% or more. Then we call it a bearish phase. Now in the last 4 years, the bearish phase has never come in. So the new investors who have never seen a drop are panicking now. And in that panic, because of that sentimental push, the decisions are going wrong. So people are either booking losses and leaving the stream itself. कि this is not meant for us. Equity is not meant for us. हमारा वो FD या एक safe zone अच्छा है जो parents ने सिखाया है. And older people who didn't look at equity, but somehow have garnered that courage to come into this, and this situation is happening, then they again tend to go back to the old routine of working in the safe zone.
So ये bearish phases को deal करने में, of course, direct equity directly shows very high risk. उसको mitigate करने के लिए what other options do you offer?
Well, there's a very fundamental rule which has been given to advisors, and we absolutely follow our, at least even I, along with many other of my brethren in the industry, follow this rule, like what we call it as asset allocation.
Correct.
You need to balance out your investments. There are many people who give me a call saying that मेरा PF का पैसा निकाल के या EPF का पैसा whatever निकाल के थोड़ा इधर divert कर दे. No, you need to understand that balancing is necessary. So equity and debt have to be balanced based on certain fundamentals, what we call as a risk profiling of the there's a fundamental rule which says that 100 minus your age should be your equity exposure. But again, if I am 40 years old and I put 60% in equity, that may not fulfill my goal if there's a short distance.
Correct.
So I have to take a little extra risk, and tweaking some fundamentals is always justified, but not, I shouldn't go 90-10 at 40.
Yeah.
But 80-20 or a 70-30 kind of an approach, or sorry, the 75-25 on the higher side as an approach can make sense. So 25% remains in debt or safe. Then it can be in the form of a debt mutual fund. It can be form of your insurance policies. It can be form of your fixed deposits or your EPF or PPF participation, all that. So these are whatever options we have available in the domains. We should have, like people say, gold is giving good returns right now, no doubts about that in the last 2-3 years because of mainly geopolitical scenarios.
Correct.
But gold is always it should be taken as a hedging product, where you mitigate your risk balancing because you are heavily invested in equity. So in case of corrections like this aspect balances your outlook for the future.
Correct.
So that you don't tend to go into a negative zone or a less growth zone. So this will always mitigate. So when you are investing in equity, you need to have some proportion of that equity investment into gold related investment so that it hedges out the risk. So, but many people do take it as a pure investment class, which somehow I don't correlate with. So, but of course, it makes a decent sense.
Correct.
If you're take it as a goal for your child's marriage, gold is prominent in marriages in India. So why not slowly accumulate what you're looking at?
Yeah. So वो भी पहले से ही चालू कर
पहले से create every bucket.
Correct.
So bucket theory definitely works. What we call as a goal setting, medium term, short term, long term goals, and then the advisor comes in to decide or guide you which product has to be used for that short term. Short term has to be debt mainly. Medium term can be a bit of debt and equity mix, and long term definitely not 100% equity, but a big chunk into, or the major chunk into equity and some portion into debt. As I always say, balance out the risk.
In this case, I'm thinking, is it the same philosophy that both employees and businessmen would follow?
No. See what happens if my business or profession is giving me uh, returns which are either related to equity or maybe higher, right? Then a businessman would tend to reinvest back the money which he's saving or rather keeping aside after his expenses and all that back into the business. But again, till what time he'll keep on pumping it?
Correct.
There has to be a level where he would definitely say that nahi, mera bhi
Active role ho
mera capital deployment is good enough. Now I would not need more. Plus, businesses have a different way of working in terms of loans. Especially big businesses don't definitely run without more. Otherwise, it's very difficult to get that much capital. So, working capital is normally in the form of a loan, right?
Correct.
For big concerns. So when it comes business, for the businessmen prefer to get loans to get into their business related activities and this thing. After they have kind of fulfilled their thought process कि भाई हाँ मेरा जितना मुझे invest करना था इस business में, I have done that. Then comes the loans, and then his profits get channelized towards investments, and that is why from a medium size of an what we say a group, say a 30-40 crore setup, we have this concept of family office, where an investable money of 30-40 crores and beyond, then it's managed by a family office professional.
Okay.
Which is what is my next level to look at, and trying to bring up my younger daughter into that. We attended a session yesterday on this. So it tricks. You have to filter out your clients from a very limited funnel.
Correct.
And make it big for them and yourself.
For yourself. So, when it comes to learning business strategies from you, one of the biggest lessons that I've learned, despite, trying my hands in every career, is that you have, with this big wave of networking platforms coming today, local bolo, WhatsApp bolo, online bolo, global bolo, offline bolo, everywhere people are present somewhere or the other. But one lesson that I've learned from you is not, kind of investing fully in networking and just being there for your clients. But what always got me question was, आज जब इतना ये networking का ये ज़्यादा है, how have you managed to grow your client base to a level of managing 100 CR of assets under management? How have you been able to grow that? What's the secret?
I have completely invested in creating a trust of my name. Relationships is what I've believed in, and this got authenticated day before when I and Khushbu were in a meeting with a client from the travel world, and she also reiterated the same thing, that I have always worked on relationships. The team is there to get your executions done. So if you maintain, so my way of getting into an relationship is not that I approach people that let's get into an investment. No, my job is that if somebody becomes an acquaintance, I start communicating, not like bombarding messages and all that, but once in a while, a fruitful message which kind of becomes a knowledge sharing.
Yeah.
And if the receiver feels that there is a need to connect with me on financials, so a call comes. So I'm not saying everybody would prefer me, but somebody would prefer some others of whom they know. So the idea is to get into the channelization of working with an advisor. So I have created that name of mine. I have actually, that has been my habit, because I always say that I'm not a salesman. I have never known sales actually. I call myself as a counselor because I work with the mindset of a customer more than working with the product range.
Hmm.
Because if the mind is clear or the channelization is done in a way that the family is ready to get into goal setting process and all that, it becomes easy for them to approach me. Okay, we are ready. And when this happens, it becomes easy for me to handhold them.
Yeah.
The absorbing power of the investor becomes very strong
Hmm.
when the need and the want,
Hmm.
right? I want customers, definitely. I definitely want one.
Of
Who
course.
doesn't want?
Oh yeah.
For me, it's like it's not that I need customers to because it's a question of life and death for me.
Hmm.
You know, like rosy roti, like dana pani khatam ho raha hai.
Yeah.
So I would not say that need, but every business would want customers.
Correct.
Always,
Correct.
especially after reaching a sustainable growth level. So I would want more customers. Now, don't miss or confuse between the needs and wants of
Yeah.
a personal life with the needs
That's
needs and wants of a business side. But if the need is very strong with the investor, fulfilling my want becomes easy for both. So that's what I try to synchronize the best, and nothing better than word of mouth than this.
Correct.
Though I do a little bit of self marketing kind of on the LinkedIn platform, and whatever new connection I get over my phone, a contact, so that gets added to a broadcast list. And if he also has, I mean, that the contact has saved my number, so he will definitely receive the broadcast message.
Correct.
And when it starts tinkling with that person, that yes, I should also
Look at
get into my financials in a professional way. And since he or she knows me, I receive the call, and it becomes easier to get into the flow.
Oh. Building a business in such a volatile industry, I would say, especially in today's world, it's not an easy task at all. I've seen you at the office, I've seen you at the workplace, and somewhere I've seen ke, छोटे मोटे operations को लेके, of course there's minor hassles, but I've never seen you panic when there's visible volatility in the market. What keeps you anchored here?
A very strong statement which I would make, which I am not able to recall the creator of this statement. Investing is 90% discipline, 10% intelligence. If you absorb this statement in your financial life, you yourself will become carefree
Yeah.
about your money. And that's what I follow. I have always worked with in a simple way, not to rush, because I don't have a mass level of customers to work with. Whoever I have in since last at least 1 year, I have created a habit that I have an operations team now at the back
Correct.
end. So whatever service related thing, even if they are posting it to me, I put it in their group, because every customer of mine has a group with every stakeholder from my side involved in that. So if he tends to be personal with me in terms of approach, fine. So I put it in the group, and then my team takes over.
Yeah.
So which involves Khushbu also, and I mean your mom also, apart from the support staff. So everybody has been assigned a certain act of participation in terms of, so that it nobody, like say your mom also doesn't get bogged down by work.
Correct.
Because she's handling both the fronts, home as well as work. So whatever she's comfortable with, that work has been assigned, but she is getting completely involved now also. So fund selection is actually never has been a tough task for me, because based on the risk profile and the timelines which I work with, and vanilla products, I don't venture into things like working with thematic funds. So if you know this terminology, or what we call it sector oriented funds, ke, pharma hai,
Yeah.
tech sector hai, banking sector hai. So I don't go into those technical sector per se funds, because most of the common funds are working with everybody. So
Correct.
why only go with the sector? Because the sector can get impacted for even a small change of policy
Yeah.
within the industry, or from a due diligence or governance point of view. So why take that extra risk for that? Because when you're working with fundamentals of returns, okay, I always say that work with a goal, returns will follow. But if you start concentrating on returns, your goals will run away. So then you decide what you want to do. So if I'm working with goals, my vanilla products, sweet and simple, what we call it as, they take care of that stress reliever. Rather than, but of course, I do my due diligence of working and analyzing funds from time to time. But majorly, that is also not a burden because the choice of funds and the fund houses to work with is
Very
filtered.
limited.
Rather, we have 40 plus fund houses. I'm empaneled with 20 plus, but I concentrate myself to work with 8 to 9 at a given time. And then these fund houses keep on coming and going in and out of that funnel. So it's easy. Okay, कहते हैं ना बहती गंगा में नहाना
Yeah.
better होता है. So if you know that, okay, one fund is suffering or a fund house is suffering, you need to rework. So there is again a theory of 3 P's in my working with or choosing the products is performance of the fund, not only from returns point of view, but portfolio combinations, fund manager, and other aspects, whatever ratios we have to look at. Then is the people. So performance, people from the manufacturer who are associated, like a doctor. MR अगर उनके पास आता है, तो tend to work more with that pharma company. The same is the case here. The fund house की तरफ से support हमको है, so we'll prefer. Not only that, relationship manager जो MR का उल्टा RM होता है हमारे केस में. So not only the RM but the entire support system of that fund house need to be there so that if a given query comes
If it's
in,
seamless for you, it's seamless for the client.
Yes. And third is then in the end that, okay, what is coming in my pocket? Because we anyways are dependent on the brokerage.
Of course.
So it's not that we have to, there are fund houses who throw away money also, but they say that कि ये product बेचो.
Yeah.
इसमें ज़्यादा अभी आपको मिलेगा. Then they say, okay, next time अभी ये fund बेचो. So it's never that way. ठीक है, but we have to look at the pocket. It has to be balanced again that side. So there might be a fund who gives us a little extra, but provided the fund is supposed to be good, so we don't mind putting that into the basket of funds which we sell. And plus time to time, we the market outlook keeps on giving us okay, which kind of an category, like we have large cap, mid cap, and small cap. I will never work with an per se pure small cap fund, but a mix of this thing. So large mid cap is the main concentration. So right now large cap is kind of making the run since last 6-8 months compared to mid and small. So we need to judge also. So based on these, the fund selections are already done. So a little stress free from that angle to put a lot of energy into analytics. Rather than that, it is a very not a casual approach, but a concentrated approach which gives you the liberty to use your time the way you want.
So what I'm seeing is, I think it applies to our lifestyle choices also. अपना choices जितना limited रखोगे, उतना discipline भी रखना easy होगा. Plus, returns would also be relatively better. Now, coming to that, when it comes to choice of wealth management and retirement planning, what is the ideal age to start working on wealth management and for retirement planning?
Yeah, starting with wealth management definitely starts with your employable age. If the day you get employed, be it your profession, your contractual setups, or your job related activity, the moment you start earning, you need to start investing by default. Now retirement can take a little little backseat initially because you need to settle yourself.
Correct.
Right, and because you haven't seen the life at all. So once you start getting into the family structure and all that, then it's kind of a right approach, or maybe slightly even before that, in case if you have decided to get married around 28, 29, so 26, 27, you can start looking at retirement as a goal also. But even if you start at 30 in the early 30s, then you have a decent 20 odd years.
Correct.
And age is a different factor of retiring. If you are highly qualified and you have got a very decent job from day one, then your retirement age might come down from the normal 60 to even 50 or even 45.
Or it can go even beyond.
Plus it can go, you can still continue working, but your resources are in place to make you carefree, that you don't have to run for
a living.
And it all depends. That's why what we always say, and we have been reading a lot about being minimalist, right? But nobody is getting into that into that aspect. They always are looking at the maximization uh, of the things around you. So if I'm not saying be a completely core minimalist, but again balance out. Balancing is definitely the core ahead.
Yeah.
If you're well balanced in your approach towards life, plus I mean, which includes money also, and one thing which people tend to miss out, we tend to plan out your expenses.
Yeah.
कि हाँ मेरी salary अभी इतनी हो गई है, let me start. Yeah, when your next increment is due, your promotions are due, your thought process is always running that okay, now I'm expecting this much increase, so I can divert my money there. But nobody has paid an attention in planning their income growth. I've hardly seen anybody planning, okay, where am I looking myself 5 years down the line? How much money I should be having? What should be my profile? What should be my job responsibilities? Nobody has planned that. And if you plan that, right, then your other aspects are already into
Correct.
place.
Correct.
Because
all your decisions are then based on कि okay 5 साल में यहाँ पे पहुँचना है तो I have to take these steps.
Absolutely. And then taking decisions also becomes easy.
Correct.
So खाली expenses को plan मत करो, खाली investments को plan मत करो. Plan the growth part also, which because when you are creating a list of buckets or goals, there would be many which will not be even able to look at because you don't have the funding available. So funding अगर available करानी है तो it's only one option of
growing your income.
Because I've never believed in telling any client that please reduce your expenses. I always say monitor and align them.
Yeah.
At your own will and thought process. But never कि नहीं आपको तो control करना ही पड़ेगा. ये क्यों कर रहे हो? Travel बंद करो. नहीं travel करना करो. But maybe
sustainable choices.
कि भाई 2 साल domestic करो, 1 साल international करो, alternate international करो. You
Based
have
on
your
personal-
permutations and combinations here, and then you because your planning needs that approach. And people who have opted for those decisions, they are better off in their life journey rather than anybody else.
Yeah.
So my job is your financial freedom is what I care about, and I ensure that we will reach there.
I think the core of everything here, the freedom here comes from resilience. वो चाहे लाइफ के सर्कमस्टेंसेस को लेके बोलो, चॉइसेस को लेके बोलो, everywhere. And for me, you are pretty much a synonym of that. Okay, so the last segment here is the big theory, books, individuals, and goals. I want to understand from you, where have you learned the resilience and other factors of life, and what would you recommend to others कि ये books तो finance को लेके या life को के कोई भी aspect को लेके it is worth reading.
See, I have always, the day I read this book, The Secret, manifestation has become a part of me, not only me, my family. I would say, including you, yet to get into these kind of discussions with Khushbu that way. But your mom and me have been living through the manifestations, and that is first book. One should actually look at it. The second book, see, financial book reading can become a hobby.
Correct.
But as I said, that if you have an expert handy, you learn from him of the knowledge of finance.
Yeah.
Right. And then keep on reading something whichever comes handy. It's not that, but I would say rather not go into with the influencers because they are not educated in that stream in terms of the fundamentals and all.
Correct.
बस जिसको जो मन में आया कि because we are kind of dealing with money, so they pick up an aspect and maybe do some research and give it to the public. But then influencers need to also know their limitations and restrictions, because the advisors have done a lot more than what they have been, I mean, in terms of the influencers have been doing. So books choice to bahut sari hai. There are so many things. But I would not specify to go into reading stock analysis ka karo, ye aisa karo, nothing like that. Nothing like that. So basic books, you need to know how you need to live your life.
Yeah.
So read this book called You Can Heal Your Life, which gives you the prompt inputs of what is happening with your body.
Correct.
Because mind is controlling the body. So everything which happens in terms of an ailment is because of the mind which is kind of gone out of control. Not to the extent that you are called a mad person or this thing. But because something is not right in with your thoughts, that is why
The
the
body is
ailments,
showing
the
up.
body is showing up, that there is some needs some correction more to happen.
Correct.
So read this book. So basic books. Then you have many motivational books.
Yeah.
Like my first book I actually started, apart from, I mean, The Secret came in later, was Seven Habits. Seven Habits was I read this in 97, 98. In fact, I went through the training of Seven Habits in my working organization, where a couple of seniors of that organization were called to Hong Kong. This was the Holiday Inn Group.
Yeah.
And they were given training by the right hand of Stephen Covey.
Okay.
So they learned, and then they took a 3 day. They took a kind of a 3 day training in for a couple of hours, and gave us the learning of those seven habits. If, how do we get into that at our local setup? So then I thought, okay, then to start reading kind of motivational and management related books. But before this thing, it was only spiritual books. So I have read many of those because I follow the spiritual philosophy. So the sect which I follow has an abundance of inputs in terms of knowledge on spiritual front.
True.
And read that. And yes, God fearing. And I have always have believed in a firm thing that you need to communicate. कम्युनिकेशन करना जरूरी है. हाँ, वर्ड्स यूज करना इम्पोर्टेंट है, सो दैट यू डोंट मिस आउट ऑन making that person understanding it in a different way, rather maybe, or hurting things like that. But communication है, लेकिन अगर सामने वाला hurt होता है, you being in a normal communication, and hurt होता है, तो then it is not your problem or responsibility for that feeling. So sometimes it does happen when you are communicating and person may get angry. I have lost a couple of clients because of communication. He communicate किया, so they felt offended. I mean, fine, it's not wrong that way because you're communicating. So believe in communication. So anything which can give you communication skills, get into that reading. And life को लेकर especially, spirituality helps. Completely made me up. Then becomes the secret, the book, The Secret. So this put together, because meditation is involved, and I've given up to him.
Yeah.
So dedicate, but I mean, we have to do our karmas
and surrender the rest.
and surrender the rest. Yeah.
Now, talking about individuals who have impacted you the most and you look up to the most.
Well, my mentor started my career life. His name is Firdaus Kapadia, a very bubbly and lovely Parsi fellow, because Parsis are always known to be a loving,
very jovial.
Yeah. So he's shaped up my career. I feel sad that I had to leave him his umbrella because he was in Ahmedabad and I moved from Ahmedabad. So, but I have never lost touch or coordinating with him for kind of major decision where I'm actually stuck. So looking upon him for an opinion. Of course, that was a very young age. So now being 52, so maturity has different. So reliance would be less comparatively than what it was. But he has shaped up my career. I give a big thanks and a thumbs up to him for shaping me, because he's the one who never, kind of, what we say, held in me like a spoon feeding. So when I started this life into insurance marketing, so any queries with the customers who used to come in, so I used to tell him, come along, well, let's go and meet this customer. He's from such a high profile job and all that. No, you go.
Yeah.
Come back with your queries.
Yeah.
If you would fail, fair enough. But come back. Then discuss with him. Try to prepare your reply based on his inputs. Again, go and meet if the opportunity is there. And that's how the work. But I have never gone and to anybody today say, ये product अच्छा है ले लो, ये product अच्छा है ले लो. Never.
Yeah.
And because, as I said, I've never been into a sales kind of in thought. Though my first job was a sales support executive, which got promoted to sales executive in the RPG group. So that was my first pure high profile job. Salary is let's not count, because at those times BCom graduates were hardly given any salary compared to the science and arts and even engineers and all that, whatever the stream called. But it was this thing. But I still realized, no, I'm not able to. I will not be able to sell. That's why the next opportunity came into an accounts department, where I then got to know that I'm good at numbers. So crunching numbers, and that's how that analytical thing, in spite of not being into an audit education and all that. So I learned the nitty-gritties by looking at reports and all that directly. So getting audits done for that organization being at a junior level was an achievement. So all these strengths came in from this mentor. I had another mentor, but he left midway. So I would not count him a mentor anyway, because it was not a sweet departure.
Okay.
So otherwise, a lot of inputs did come in from a corporate life point of view. Whereas others, I definitely say that the third person is my wife, your mom, who has been my strength, my support in the ups and downs. Of course, there has never been a kind, because you would have observed this in the 23 years that you were prominently with us.
Yeah.
That there was never a husband-wife protocol.
Never.
Ever. It has been that of kind of in friendship, or a dating kind of an atmosphere, or the way of communicating, the way you date in that atmosphere, and it continues still. So we have never forced decisions on each other. But if decisions have to be influenced, it has to be influenced with reasoning.
Correct.
Okay, if I'm saying a no, this is the reason behind it, so you take a call. Or if it has to be a no to convert it to a yes, these are the pros and cons. Look at it.
Yeah.
And then decision making becomes easy. So it's basically an opinion-based communication, and no protocols, because protocols kill you. Fundamentals need to be in place, but protocols definitely kill you. So then they don't allow you to flourish in a relationship.
True.
So I've kept them aside. Maybe would have fought with my parents because of that also.
Yeah.
You know.
Jaisa chal raha hai, chal
Yeah.
raha
So these are the three. And then, yes, you children have also been inspiring, because parenting is also a journey. So if you don't get that reflex or back of what we are trying to offer, so then that journey becomes unfruitful.
Yeah.
So lovely children with who keep on inspiring, always learning never stops. So a lot of learnings. Every child definitely teaches its parents, but then how you look at it is different. So barring these three, I would not. And yes, a big credit to all the clients, especially clients who have remained with me from my
Initial
start
journey.
and still are with me.
Yeah.
And because they have been influencing the others to be with me to whatever extent they could. And then because of that philosophy that I'm not going to do anything which is going to be unfruitful for you, because your growth is not happening, and which will impact my growth also.
True.
So when it comes to investment guidance, if you want to grow, your investors have to grow, because it's brokerage based. So if the investor is not growing, how will your growth happen?
Yeah.
So it's a very simple thing. Okay, look, be good to do everything good for the investor. Good things will automatically come to you.
Yeah.
And then the needs and the wants of self.
Correct. And the last one, the one ultimate goal in your life.
I have always believed in being happy. If you have seen me working, no stress of long hours, take a holiday whenever you want, and not only in terms of going out for a vacation and all that. Okay, today spend the time with family. Okay, no work today. So this is my only goal, and I want this to be sustained and continue forever. Honestly, that has been and will be my only major goal. Rest all are materialistic things.
Correct.
So having known me, fine, if something sometimes prompts to spend.
Correct.
Right? So fair enough. If the resources are available, go ahead with it. And plus, realize the need and want situation. It's not that maybe sometimes I would have not made a wrong decision of spending. I mean, definitely hota hai. But then you realize, and if you don't repeat that mistake,
that's
then
what
it's
matters.
worthwhile. Yeah. So that's why otherwise no specific goals. Rest all are okay. Khushbu's settlement and all that, things like that. You have taken care of certain things from that, from your personal point of view. So what else do I
Yeah.
have? I mean, it's now with the age catching up. It's basically a relaxing setup which you are looking at the future.
Thank you so much, Papa. It has been, I'm sure it's been a delight for the viewers when it comes to life lessons as well as financial lessons. And if there's any issue, of course, you can always get in touch with any of us and we'll
Absolutely.
direct you to him. Thank you so much.
More than happy for having me here and discussing this passion which I mentioned earlier. Also, this is passion. I can talk hours on this,
Yeah.
and it will still not stop. Thank you once again.
Thank you.